In 2022, Amber Heard and Johnny Depp's defamation trial became the most-watched court case in internet history. When the verdict came in, Heard lost badly, $10 million in damages. Her lawyers admitted she couldn't pay. Outside the courthouse, strangers cheered. On TikTok, millions mocked her tears, memed her testimony, and signed petitions to erase her from Hollywood. And then she vanished. No interviews, no comeback. She just left the country. Today, she's in Madrid under a reported fake name, raising 3 kids alone, but also quietly returning to acting. To understand how she got here, we have to go back to where it all fell apart.
I view the evidence in the light most favorable to the plaintiff. There is evidence in the case that a jury could weigh that the statements were made by the defendant, that the statements were about the plaintiff, that the statement was published, that the statement is false, and the defendant made the statement knowing it to be false, or the defendant made it so recklessly as to amount to a willful disregard for the truth.
The jury deliberated for 3 days before delivering a split decision that satisfied almost no one, except Johnny Depp's fans. Depp was awarded $10 million in compensatory damages and $5 million in punitive damages, though Virginia law capped that at $350,000, bringing his total to $10.35 million. Meanwhile, Heard did win one of her 3 counterclaims, and she was awarded $2 million for that. But if we do the math, the net result was clear. Heard owed Depp $8.35 million. Her statement afterwards called the verdict heartbreaking and claimed it sets back the clock to a time when a woman who spoke up could be publicly shamed and humiliated. Her attorney went further, going on television to say Heard absolutely could not afford to pay. So she filed an appeal in November, arguing the case should never have been tried in Virginia in the first place. But she never saw it through. By December 2022, both sides announced a settlement. Heard would pay Depp $1 million, and they'd drop their appeals. Here's the detail most people missed, though. Heard didn't actually write that check. Her insurance company, Travelers, paid the entire settlement on her behalf. So the woman who supposedly owed millions, she walked away without paying a cent out of pocket. But the money was never the real cost.
Sir, Atlantean hostiles are approaching.
Split up. Make your way to the extraction point.
Roger.
They've raided the storage vaults. We can't let them get away.
Don't worry, they won't. I'm on this one.
When Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom finally hit theaters in December 2023, everyone wanted to know one thing: how much of Heard was actually in it? And the answer wasn't great. About 20 minutes of screen time and 11 speaking lines. Only this, in a 2-hour film, where her character is married to the lead and has just given birth to his child. She shows up for a few action sequences at the beginning and end, stands silently in the background of several scenes, and then she's basically gone. Director James Wan insisted this was always the plan. He told the press the sequel was meant to be a bromance between Aquaman and his brother, but trial testimony told a different story. Former Warner Brothers executive Walter Hamada had cited lack of chemistry with Jason Momoa as a concern. Heard herself testified she had to fight just to stay in the movie at all. However, the box office told its own story. The first Aquaman made $1.15 billion worldwide, the biggest DC film ever at that point. But the sequel, only $440 million. That's a 62% collapse. Now, some of that was the film itself. It got a 33% on Rotten Tomatoes and arrived as the final gasp of a dying franchise nobody asked for. But the shadow of the trial hung over everything. 4.6 million people had signed a petition to remove Heard entirely. And whether audiences stayed away because of her or because of the movie itself, the result was the same: a disaster. Her only other post-trial film was In the Fire, a low-budget period thriller she also produced. It premiered at an Italian film festival, earned a 21% critic score, and then quietly disappeared. Since then, no major studio has offered her a project. But the career fallout was only a part of what she was facing.
I said I find it hard to believe that he would do that knowing that he himself had beat me up for 5 years.
But he has told the world that he's your victim of domestic abuse, hasn't he?
Well, he started to say that only recently. So when we signed our divorce agreement and we signed a statement saying that neither party had ever said false claims for financial gain, it was relevant and important to me because I was the only one making those claims. He wasn't doing that at the time.
The trial wasn't just a legal battle. It was a social media bloodbath unlike anything Hollywood had ever seen. On TikTok, the hashtag Justice for Johnny Depp racked up over 20 billion views. But Justice for Amber Heard? Only around 80 million. That's a 250-to-1 ratio. And every single day of the trial, clips of Heard's testimony were being edited, remixed, and mocked by millions of strangers. Her facial expressions became memes. Her words became punchlines. People made reaction videos, hot takes, comedy sketches, and the algorithm just kept serving it up on an endless loop. The more people engaged, the more it spread. A report from Bot Sentinel, a firm that tracks online harassment, called it one of the worst cases of cyberbullying and cyberstalking by a group of Twitter accounts they'd ever seen. They found that 24% of the accounts attacking Heard had been created in just the prior 7 months. And it wasn't just Heard getting targeted. Women who tweeted in support of her were doxxed, harassed, and in one case, trolled with photos of their deceased children. Then came the ACLU scandal, the moment that, according to one juror, destroyed whatever credibility she had left. Back in 2016, Heard had announced she was donating her entire $7 million divorce settlement to charity, half to the ACLU, half to the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. At the time, it was a PR masterstroke, proof that she wasn't after Depp's money, proof that she was a survivor with integrity, not a gold digger playing the system. But the trial testimony revealed a very different picture. She'd personally donated just $350,000. Elon Musk, her boyfriend at the time, had contributed $500,000 on her behalf, and Depp himself had actually given $100,000 before the split. When the ACLU followed up about the remaining payments in 2019, Heard cited financial difficulties. The problem was, she'd already gone on talk shows saying she'd donated the money. She'd used the words, "I gave it away," and "it's gone." The jury saw those clips, and one juror later said it was a fiasco for her credibility. Her net worth, once estimated around $3 million, reportedly dropped to somewhere between $500,000 to $1 million. With her career gone and her reputation in ruins, she made a choice most people didn't expect. 6 weeks after the verdict, Heard sold her desert home in Yucca Valley, California for $1.05 million. By late 2022, she had left the country entirely. Her first stop was Mallorca, the Spanish island in the Mediterranean. From there, she moved to Madrid, where she reportedly purchased a villa in El Viso, one of the city's wealthiest and most private neighborhoods. Spanish press reported she'd even adopted a pseudonym, Martha Jane Canary, the real name of Wild West legend Calamity Jane, a woman famous for reinventing herself on the frontier. Whether it's actually true or just tabloid invention, no one has confirmed. But the symbolism wasn't lost on anyone paying attention. What is confirmed is this, though. She wanted to disappear, and she did. Local accounts paint a picture of deliberate anonymity. A grocer told a Spanish newspaper she's just like everyone else, buys fruit, speaks Spanish with a slight accent, keeps to herself. Neighbors have spotted her walking her daughter to school in a cap and sunglasses. No entourage, no drama, just a woman trying to be invisible. Her relationship with cinematographer Bianca Butti, which had been public during the trial, quietly ended around 2021 or 2022. Since then, no new partner has been publicly identified. When paparazzi approached her in September 2024 and asked about Johnny Depp, who happened to be in Spain for a film festival, she gave them almost nothing. "I'm living here in Madrid," she said. "I love Spain. I'm very lucky to be here. Regarding my past, I don't feel like thinking or talking about it. I'm happy and in peace." And in that peace, she focused on the one thing she said mattered most. Heard's daughter, Una Page, was born in April 2021 via surrogate, before the trial even began. The name Page honors Heard's mother, who passed away just a year earlier. As for the father, Heard has never identified him. She just calls herself the mom and the dad. After the verdict, she sat down with NBC's Savannah Guthrie and talked about what was getting her through it all. Motherhood, she said, was her anchor. I get to be a mom, she explained, full-time, where I don't have to juggle calls with lawyers. And when Guthrie asked if she'd ever tell her daughter about the trial, Heard didn't hesitate. It will mean something, I did the right thing. Then, in December 2024, a spokesperson confirmed she was pregnant again. And on Mother's Day, 2025, she announced the arrival of her twins, a daughter named Agnes and a son named Ocean. Her Instagram post that day read, "This year, I am elated beyond words to celebrate the completion of the family I've strived to build for years." Still, no partner was mentioned, no father identified, just a single mother of 3, building her family on her own terms, with no explanation offered and none owed. But after 2 years of near total silence, she did something no one expected.
Oh my gosh, hi. Hi. Is this Fern, the costume designer for Spirit of the People, and Amber Heard? Hi, are y'all making decisions? You're working it out on the remix, making creative choices. All right, I'll leave you alone. Get to it.
In June 2025, Heard announced she'd been cast in a new play called Spirit of the People, written by Tony-nominated playwright Jeremy O. Harris, the same writer behind the acclaimed Slave play. The production would run at the prestigious Williamstown Theatre Festival in Massachusetts from mid-July through early August. Her Instagram caption kept it simple, "In my theater era." The play itself was partially performed in Spanish, which Heard speaks fluently, and she was cast as Genevieve, a mezcal bar owner in a Mexican beach town visited by a group of queer Los Angeles tourists. Reviews were limited since the festival asked critics not to formally review it, but Vanity Fair did offer some praise, writing that Heard embodies the fragility and resilience of a classic Tennessee Williams heroine. Now, it wasn't a blockbuster, it wasn't a comeback tour, it wasn't even a film, but it was a quiet return to performing in front of a live audience, far from the cameras and comment sections that had nearly destroyed her. Around the same time, she also appeared at the 2025 Sundance Film Festival for a documentary called Silenced, which examines how defamation lawsuits are used to silence abuse survivors. Her statement in the film was her most direct commentary since the trial ended. "I have lost my ability to speak. I don't want to use my voice anymore. That's the problem." And then came Blake Lively. When Lively's lawsuit against Justin Baldoni revealed that Depp's crisis PR team had been hired to go after her, Heard spoke out publicly for the first time in years. She called social media the absolute personification of the classic saying, "A lie travels halfway around the world before truth can get its boots on." She said she'd seen it play out firsthand and up close. Meanwhile, Johnny Depp was living a very different reality. He signed a $20 million deal with Dior, the largest men's fragrance contract in history. He opened the Cannes Film Festival to a standing ovation. He directed a film starring Al Pacino. And when asked about his career, he told the press he doesn't feel boycotted by Hollywood because he doesn't think about Hollywood. The gap between their trajectories, him ascending, her invisible, is impossible to ignore. And whether you think that gap represents justice or injustice says everything about which version of events you believe.
I'm the performer. I had listened to weeks of testimony insinuating that, or saying quite directly that, I'm a terrible actress.
Amber Heard didn't rebuild her Hollywood career. She abandoned it entirely. She traded red carpets for school runs, blockbusters for theater stages, and headlines for silence. Whether that's a victory or a surrender depends entirely on what you believe happened in that marriage. Her supporters say she was silenced by a broken system, chewed up by an algorithm that rewards cruelty and punishes women who speak out. However, her critics say she got exactly what she deserved, that she lied, manipulated, and finally faced consequences. But here's what's undeniable. She's still here. 3 kids, a new country, a new name, maybe, and a life that nobody's filming anymore. She lost control of her story, so she left to write a new one. Do you think Heard will ever try to come back to Hollywood? Or is this chapter closed for good? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.